Okay, so are you turning your volume up, or are you turning your volume down, or are you staying the same? Volume is a topic that comes up often in my work, in my recreation, in my sport, with friends, because volume is so relative and it's so variable. Within just myself or you, volume can change big time in regards to, is it too much volume, or is your volume increasing at an appropriate amount? So why volume is so important is volume usually ends up translating into amount of load on a tissue. When I'm thinking about tissues, common tissues in our body that take load and volume are muscles, tendons, things that get repeatedly stressed. These are the tissues that when you overload them with too much volume, then they're often going to tell you in the presence of pain and symptoms. So your body's going to tell you everything you need to know about how you're managing your volume. And that could be running volume, touring volume, as in ski touring. It could be reps and sets of strength. It could be load of weight, right? Every kind of repetitive thing you're doing on your body, you can equate to volume. And you need to be really careful about how you ramp up the volume. And it all is dependent on where you're coming from. So I think where people get into trouble is last summer they had this great ramp up of volume for, say, running or biking. And then maybe they got injured, or they got sick, or they got pulled away from their activity. So when they start out this next season, they're in a different starting place than they were the year before. But they try and do what they did the year before, and maybe they get injured. So volume is just a practice of being really cognizant of what you're doing and then what you're going to do next. And it changes, right? Like age changes. Your tissues aren't quite as malleable, and they don't recover quite as well when we get older. And so that can throw us off, right? 4 years ago, I did X. Now when I try and do that now, maybe it might not work if you're not prepared and have prepped the body to do so. Recovery and volume are very closely related, right? We do these controlled volume progressions and loads, but what's really critical is while you're in that building volume phase, you need to be taking care of recovery. Are your muscles recovering between each of those efforts? If they're not, if you're just doing it, then you're more likely to have some overloading of the tissues, the tissue getting full of waste and not recovering, and then not performing as well, getting tighter, causing pain. So hydrating is so important during, after, fueling those muscles with energy, eating whatever your body agrees with before, during, and after activities. Sleep is huge. I mean, there's so many different aspects of recovery that are going to have a positive or negative impact on changes in volume. Because, we can only handle so much volume. And also, I guess the other piece is when we're thinking about, I default to running a lot in my brain. That's where all this training and strength fad has come from with running. And it's really important because if you're going to put more load on your muscle during your activity, those muscles need to be strong enough to take the increased load/volume of your activity. So there's usually a tipping point. It is in your best interest to get your muscles in a place to take the load of your activity. And when you change the volume, you have to have your body and your tissues be ready to also take that volume, or you're going to get into trouble.